Welcome, everybody. This is the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, and every week we bring you the stories of people who are making the world around them better. They do this locally, globally, and digitally. We are part of Rotary International. That is 1.2 million people in 36,000 clubs around the world. Ours, the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley, is one of those 36,000 clubs, and we are an especially flexible one. We are online, of course, but also we are asynchronous, out of the belief that there are plenty of people with a heart for service, but not able to make regular meetings at a particular place and a particular time each week. And so by providing that flexibility, we want people who want to make the world better as a part of an organization doing these things. We want them to have that opportunity. And you can learn more about our space at rotary.cool. That address will take you to our website, and you can learn more about our meetings and what we do and connections to Rotary and all of these kinds of things. Our speaker today is Carrol Plummer, and Carrol has 3 decades of experience as an entrepreneur, a startup person, and a wonderfully interesting bio. To read the details of that bio, go ahead and pause this recording, whether you find it on our podcast or our video page, and give that a quick look, and then just come right back to it, and that works just fine as well. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Carrol. Welcome to the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley. It's great to have you with us.
Rushton, thanks so much. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. It's a pleasure getting to know you and also an honor, I think, to be speaking to other Rotarians. My mom founded a Rotary Club in the town I came from in Western Canada because the neighboring town wouldn't accept female members at the time. So I definitely heard lots about service in our community, and yeah, it's an honor to be speaking to you today. So I hope by the end of my discussion today, I'm going to leave you looking at plants in a different way. So the title of my discussion is What If Plants Could Talk? They can. And what if we were listening? And there's all sorts of special things that can happen once we're able to actually listen to what plants are having to say to us. So plants are really interesting entities. And there's many ways we can think of them as the most successful group of living things on Earth. They make up way more biomass than any other equivalent living organism, and they have very sophisticated signaling systems and information processing systems that I'm going to tell you about later on today. So I also think, plants have been talking to us for centuries and we haven't been able to understand. And today we can because we've got powerful computers and we've got artificial intelligence. And for me, this is one of the really most exciting applications for artificial intelligence. So for me, I'm absolutely delighted to be working with AI and with biology. And I hope by the end of the day, you're also excited about the good that AI is doing in this field. Find my button to switch slides. There we go. So we're going to start with intelligence. What does it mean to be intelligent? And intelligence definitely did not begin with brains. If you look at kind of a common definition of intelligence, you have to sense what's going on around you. You have to process that information in some way, and then you have to adapt your behavior, your strategies so that you survive, so that you're fit, so that you actually thrive. And some people say an even higher level of intelligence occurs when you're actually able to communicate to other similar beings. And interestingly, plants do all of that. And we have five senses as humans. Plants have around 32 known senses. So they're very sentient beings. They have no brain, they have no nervous system, but what they do use a lot is cell to cell communication up and down the stem of that plant. So they're definitely sensing their environment. They're integrating information from the root zone, from the top of the foliage, from every single leaf that's on that plant, and then they're adapting their strategy so that they can survive. When you look out a window, you might think, geez, plants are kind of boring. I don't see anything really happening. But by the end of this presentation, I hope you look out your window again and think, wow, there's a really exciting there's a really exciting world happening out there. So I'm going to take you right now and I'm going to show you what some plant signaling actually looks like. So kind of keep in your imagination that plants are really intelligent, sentient, sensing beings. And I'm going to show you some of those signals right now. So this is a genetically modified plant with a caterpillar on it. The caterpillar is biting the plant, and then you're going to see the vasculature in this plant light up. So this plant is modified so we can actually see calcium signals progressing through this plant in response to that caterpillar biting the plant. I'm going to play that again for you so you can watch that. And there's interesting things to notice here. Not all of the leaves light up the same or at the same time. So this is really, I'm trying to help you visualize the internal signaling that's happening in plants. And so I think for me, being able to see this really helps to convince me, and we show this demo to people that we're talking to all the time, but it shows them a couple of things. So plants really are sensing, but they're also responding very quickly. So plants respond in the scale of seconds. They also respond in the scale of hours and days and seasons. So we have to decode those signals across all those different time frames. But I think the key message I want you to take away from this slide is that it's the plant itself that we are using as a sensor. If you were a farmer sitting in this room, you would know that farmers are measuring many, many different things. So they have for sure have weather forecasts. Many of them have weather stations. They're measuring things like light, soil moisture levels. They're looking at GPS coordinates and satellite imagery to see if they've got problems with weeds or problems where the seeds didn't take. So all of that information is interesting, but most of it describes the conditions around the plant. Imagine if you went into a doctor's office and the doctor looked at you and said, "Oh, the temperature in my office is 72 Fahrenheit. You must be feeling well." You would think, "Hey, I need another doctor." But that is actually how we manage crop health. There are very, very few direct measures of crop health. And what you're seeing and what we're doing today is one of those direct measurements. So we have a little device. I don't know how you won't be able to see that very well, but we attach this to plants in the field. And it looks like a walkie-talkie because we are trying to talk to plants or listen to plants, but it works just like an ECG does. It picks up the same kind of electrical signals that an electrocardiogram does when you go to the doctor. And so all living things share the same kind of electrical signaling inside its cell-to-cell signaling. So again, the plant is the sensor, and our aim at Vivent Biosignals, which is the company I'm a co-founder of, is to really use that plant as a sensor. So instead of measuring the environment, we're tapping into the plant's own sensing mechanism, and we are decoding that. And as I said at the start, these signals have been known about for more than 120 years, but until we had powerful computers and machine learning models, we were just making no progress at being able to decode these signals. So our aim is to capture these signals, using that special sensor, the plant itself, and then add a missing layer of information to agriculture. And that's information from the biology itself, from the plant itself. So what does that look like in reality? So if you're a farmer, how does this actually work in practice? So we send you some sensors, the farmer installs them. We install on sentinel plants, so maybe 8 plants per field. What a field is, 8 plants per homogeneous area. And we're actually attaching to the plant with small electrodes, the same as an ECG. And these record these naturally occurring cell-to-cell signals in the plant. And the plant uses those signals to regulate growth, to regulate reproduction, and to mount defenses. So every time you mow your grass or cut your lawn, you can smell something. And that smell is a chemical signal that comes after the electrical signal, and it's one blade of grass signaling to its neighbors that, hey, I'm under attack, mount your defenses. So each grass blade makes itself taste bitter because it thinks it's being eaten by a caterpillar, not run over by a lawnmower. But that's part of, one of the things that plants are doing with their signaling. So these signals we're capturing from the plant are transmitted to the cloud. So we're a company with lots of telecoms engineers. And then once we have the data in the cloud, we are processing it with machine learning algorithms. And we use a whole range of types of machine learning algorithms, very similar, to the LLMs that you are probably using today, also supervised machine learning. When we started, we didn't know if all plants spoke the same language. So that's one of the really exciting things that we've been discovering in our work. For me, I think it's absolutely fascinating that I can sit here and think that I've learned which plants speak the same language about which kind of different stimuli. Finally, we present these results of these algorithms on a dashboard. It's live, so the grower can look at it at any time. We also send them alerts if something bad is happening with the plants. But our aim is to provide really timely and useful decision support for farmers. So, does the crop have enough water? Does it have enough nutrients? Is it getting attacked by a pest or have a fungal infection, for instance? So this is what an actual dashboard looks like. So we have a general measure of crop health here and the adaptation index. We can tell you if the plant is getting enough water, does it have enough nitrogen, enough potassium. We have about 35 of these metrics right now. A typical farmer might ask you, say they want 3,000, and we're at 35 out of 3,000, and by the time we get to 3,000, they'll have thought of many more. So they can see what's happening right now. They can also see recent history. We also have a chat bot in here where the farmer can talk to the dashboard and say, what should I be doing right now? And one of the most interesting things that we have learned, and one of the most interesting ways our business creates value for farmers, is not telling them what to do because they often know that already. They have years and years or generations of experience. It's not telling them where to do something because a lot of them are using satellite and drone imagery so they can see where there's problems, but it's telling them when to do something. And that's a really important question to answer because a plant is a living thing, just like we are. And if you spend a lot of time being highly stressed, you're just not able to recover as well as another entity that hasn't been so stressed. So the unique thing we're bringing to agriculture right now is how to make timely decisions. And this has been for many growers a big shift in a paradigm. For some growers, it's actually answering questions or answering hypotheses that they held for a long time but had no other way of answering. What we see when we think about trying to improve yields and reduce inputs for agriculture is applying those inputs at the right moment when the plant is able to take up water, take up nutrients, when there really is a fungal infection or a pest attacking a plant, makes a big difference. It makes a difference to how well the crop recovers. It makes a big difference to how well the treatment works. And it makes a big difference to how well the inputs like water and fertilizer are actually used. So answering this question about, do I just need to wait and feel confident the waiting is okay? Is it too late? Have I already kind of missed the boat here? What do I need to learn for the next crop cycle? Or can I act at exactly the right time? So this is, one of the things we're really doing is helping improve the confidence that farmers have in that decision making. So knowing when to do something is as important as knowing what to do, we're finding. And I just wanted to share with you three examples I pulled out here of how this is making a difference on the farm. So I think lots of Rotarians, you're in service to other people. We are in service to our clients. So if I'm not making that farm more profitable and more sustainable, then I don't think the farmer should be paying me. So I'm definitely aiming at improving the farmer's business. So here are some examples. These are real farms in real places. So potatoes are in Poland in this example. Here we've worked with a company to help them refine the types of the fertilizer mix they're using and refine crop treatments. They're using some biological crop treatments to enhance fertilizer uptake. And the result was improved yield. A 6% increase in yield is big in farming. And importantly, more potatoes that are of the right size for processing. These potatoes are going for French fries. And so this farming group saved around 10 euros or $10 a hectare. And they have 9,000 hectares, so that was 90 grand a season they're saving because of this information we're providing. Similarly, in blueberry crops, which are growing quite fast in California and faster still in South America, we're able to help people match irrigation and nutrition to what the crop needs at that time. So you can see this is early spring. The crops are actually not dormant here. They are actually growing, producing a lot of buds. They actually need quite a lot of nutrition at this stage. But we've helped these people apply less water and less fertilizer over the course of that crop cycle. And that's a big cost savings, so a big improvement in profitability for them. And finally, on tomatoes, that's something else you grow a lot of in the Central Valley in California. We are able to detect nutrient stress days before visible symptoms appear. And the problem that lots of tomatoes have is the bottom of the tomato turns black, and they don't see, in order to ensure that problem doesn't occur, they have to act about 3 to 4 weeks before by changing the nutrients they're feeding those plants. So these three examples are just showing three routes where we are creating value for our clients. So improving yield, the amount of crops you get from the unit of growing area, optimizing the inputs so you can apply the inputs at the right time and for the right cost, and identifying problems so you can actually avoid them. So you're going to get better quality fruit at the end of the day. So I really think better timing it's not really just a technical improvement. It actually translates directly into profitability and resilience in our food system. And here I've shown you examples of this at the scale of one farm, but of course we can look across whole regions. This is a map of Poland, and here I've got potato farms and berry farms on this particular map. And the color of the ring around the potato or around the berries is an indication of the probability that these crops are under stress from a specific, this is a fungal infection. And so if it's nice and green, there's no problem. If it's red, there's a very high probability that these plants have a fungal infection. But you can imagine if you look across whole regions and you have water scarcity, or you're trying to reduce fertilizer inputs, you're trying to treat invading pests or fungal infections, seeing how these things track across whole regions can be very helpful for policymakers. So like water scarcity, do the people at the north of this country need it, or do the people at the south of this country need it? And you can see in real time, and that would enable you to make strong policy decisions. So again, trying to measure the plant itself brings a lot of value rather than just measuring what's going on around the plant. And I want to just bring this back a little bit. Vivent Biosignals, our business, is a certified B Corporation. So we take kind of sustainability and client service and how we treat our employees very seriously. And I think it kind of feels very consistent with the Rotarian values. So we think that we are making available to the service of farmers and greater society a new a new type of information. And this is real-time information from crops themselves. So it's a biological information layer that we can sandwich between soil health and weather data to really say what's going on in this ecosystem. And I've showed you some examples where I think we can support healthier communities by improving food security, where we can support local economies by improving the profitability of farms and farmers, and also by protecting the environment. If we can work with farmers to only use the right amount of nutrients, the right amount of water, and apply those nutrients when the plants can really use them, then that is good for everybody. So I think for us, when Rushton approached us and said, "Would we like to come and meet some Rotarians?" Knowing who you were, I really felt that what we're doing feels very consistent with the values that your members hold. So I'm delighted again to be here today. So we think biological information is valuable when it serves people, mostly farmers, but also the communities in which they live. And we think by helping farmers make better decisions, they'll be able to produce food more efficiently and more sustainably. And the graph on the right here is a graph that we've been modeling since 2021. And it shows you, if you know about CO2 reduction, 6 million tons of CO2 reduction per year is enormous. So, people say if you're over 1 million tons of CO2 a year, you're starting to move the needle. And this is what we would achieve if we can get 10% market share in 10 key crop sectors. So that is all I wanted to share with you today. I would really like to say thank you to Rushton for the invitation to be here. I'm of course happy to answer some questions. And I hope now when you look out that window, instead of thinking, oh, those plants, they look nice, but they're not really doing anything, you'll recognize that they're really in a bit of a battle. So they're trying to outcompete the plants around them for the light, for the water, for the nutrients that are in the soil. And they're using really sophisticated information processing in order to thrive. So in order to outcompete their neighbors and in order to survive when they're being attacked by pests and diseases. So plants have always kind of known what's going on around them. And now with the use of artificial intelligence and some big computers, they're actually able to tell us and we can respond by helping improve the environment for plants. So thank you very much. I look forward to your questions.
Excellent. Well, let's introduce the group that we have got in the recording. We have members from several different parts of the world. Now, here in the Bay Area, my name is Rushton. I'm in San Jose. Up in San Francisco is Susan. All right. In Budapest, Hungary is Victoria. All right. And the eastern side of Italy, we have Cecilia. So we'll jump into the questions this way. I'd like to start with a question about geography. So Vivent is headquartered in Switzerland. You talked about the work that you do in Poland. You mentioned agricultural practices in California and in South America. First of all, what parts of the world are you doing most of your work in? And is it the case that in certain parts of the world, the geography better aligns with your technology for the outcomes you're trying to achieve?
Yeah. So we're mostly active in Western Europe. We're also active on the coastal areas of North America, and we're active throughout South America. But Russian, I think it's an interesting question because the geography does make a difference. And right now, this is really new and emerging technology. It's relatively expensive, and you get high value crops in temperate regions and in areas where you can control water. And so that is where our market penetration is biggest, is in temperate regions and in areas where water is under control. If somebody is growing something and they're not fertilizing, they're not irrigating, then it doesn't create so much value to know whether their crop is stressed. So we need to work with farmers who are actually intervening.
Cool. A question came in from Cecilia that I think is especially interesting. We're recording this in early August, some months into we'll call it the situation in the Middle East, where fertilizers are in a bit of a choke point, shall we say. Have you had more interest in the work you're doing as a function of the kind of global restrictions on getting fertilizers where they need to go?
It's really interesting because this summer it's a little bit of a perfect storm for farmers. So fertilizer prices and fuel prices are very high because of the conflict in the Middle East. And then we're having very quite extreme weather. So here in Western Europe, it is very hot. And so we are definitely having a lot of additional interest in water conservation. So we're doing a lot of work on drought management right now for plants. And to be honest, with fertilizer, many farmers were so stressed at not being able to actually get the fertilizer that they were expecting, that as soon as they got it, they were applying it. So I wouldn't say there we're monitoring, we're helping them tune mixes if they were able to stay calm and not just apply as soon as they got it. But I think the fertilizer market has definitely been disrupted because of the conflict in the Middle East. And that has, farmers are short of cash because the fertilizer and fuel prices are high, but they are really trying to optimize. So that has helped our business.
But with the added heat and with these kinds of things, obviously the idea that some kind of investment can mean years of savings on all sorts of elements of the work a farmer does is compelling, right? And so, what are the upfront costs? And perhaps, by the way, you might show us again the walkie-talkie, as you called it. And Victoria asks, how many of those are typically needed by a farmer to achieve the kind of results that you described in the presentation?
Perfect. So here is our walkie-talkie. So it's, it's a bit, kind of the size of a pack of cards and has an antenna here, which we could have hidden. And here are the electrodes that we actually insert in the plant. So they're very fine silver-coated needles. And we just, I have my blower on, but we just insert them in the stem of the plant. And typically, we put in 8 of these sensors in any homogeneous field. So what a homogeneous field is really varies by the geography. If you're in the Midwest where it's flat and really consistent soil, the fields are enormous. And if you're here in Switzerland where there's no flat ground and the soil is really inconsistent, the fields are much, much smaller. We use 8 sensors typically because we want to make sure we have a representative sample. So when you go to the doctor, you want personalized medicine, but the farmer is managing for the whole field, unless they have very, very expensive crops. So there are like date palms. There are some plants that are so expensive they're managed individually, but nearly all farmers are managing a field of plants. So we just want to make sure they have a representative sample. And so that's about 8 per hectare or 8 per homogeneous field. And what does it cost? There's an upfront cost for the sensors, and then there's a cost for access to the dashboard. And we have some farmers that buy the sensors in year one and then just pay the dashboard costs after that. And we have other farmers who amortize the cost of the sensors over 3 years. And so, but the cost for a hectare is about it's around $1,500 a hectare a year as a rough guide. But it, and I think for a potato farmer here in Switzerland, their income will be around $8,000 per hectare, and for a wine grower, it'll be around $40,000 per hectare. So that just gives you a feel for the scale. There's one other thing I wanted to mention, Rushton. You talked about the more extreme weather events that we're experiencing. Another place we do a lot of work is with seed companies. So people that are developing new varieties of plants. And it takes about 10 years to develop and market a new variety of plant because you have to do a lot of screening, do a lot of field tests, then you actually have to get it approved. So it's a big investment to get a new variety of plant. And we are working with people that are developing new varieties, for instance, of coffee, of tea, of bananas, um, to help them speed up that process. So we think we're going to knock around 20% of the time off that process and get some new varieties to market more quickly. So that's something else we do. It's a bit more researchy, but it's also very exciting to see the new varieties, being selected.
Well, one of the things that brings up is the business of Vivent and of using these kinds of sensors and tools in this way. And I'm curious when you think about what this can mean to agricultural businesses in different parts of the world, and the kinds of opportunities that exist. You have this background of many years as an entrepreneur. I'm wondering what kinds of things most excite you about the potential of this technology for communities and for the agricultural sector specifically.
I think one of the things that really excites me is actually the passing down of information from generation to generation. So farmers are, on the land, they're tied to the land. And I think most farmers want to pass that land and pass their way of life on to the following generations. And one of the things we see with our work is that we make many things discussable that farmers had trouble discussing before because they didn't have any visual evidence, they didn't have sometimes even the vocabulary to talk about it. But nowadays we have lots of older generation farmers. An average age of a farm manager is around 60 years old in the States and here in Europe. So they're pretty old and they have the next generation coming who are a lot more good at computers, and even the younger generation, the grandkids, are very good at it. And here, by seeing the data in real time, the older generation can say, I have an idea, I think the plant might be reacting like this, And then we can look on the dashboard and actually see if that's right. And so then they have a lot of discussions on in-depth knowledge about a lot of transfer of in-depth knowledge on how to grow plants. So for me, that's one of the things that I enjoy most about our work is just this passing on of information from generation to generation.
Susan, you have a question.
Yeah, it's more of a business question. I'm not familiar with European. I don't know if you're a nonprofit or for profit. That wasn't really the question. The question is, how do clients find out about you? I mean, Rushton found out about you, but what marketing do you do? So people, can I buy you? Type question.
Exactly. I think that we are a for-profit company, so we are here to make money, and we actually have venture capital investment, so we are actually here for an exit also because that's how our investors will make some money. Um, how do we market to people? It's really interesting, Susan, because I've been in business to business operations all my life, so I'm not really a really smart person marketing running shoes or the latest gadget. Um, but we do know how to provide very good service. People find us a lot through references. And so somebody, you'll have those really early adopter people that are always exploring. They find us, they try, and then we end up with a cluster of growers in a small area. So to be honest, that is how we are growing right now. But maybe if I had a really bright marketing person, we could speed that up.
Thank you.
Great question, Susan. So we're kind of at that point where we should wind down what we're doing in the recording. One huge benefit to being on the recording as a member of the Rotary E Club of Silicon Valley is we get to keep talking to these fascinating people that we connect with. And I am, Carol, so you know, I'm really excited to ask you about some of the ramifications of the idea of sentience in plants, and we'll hit that after we finish. But for everyone who has been watching this video or listening to this podcast, we thank you for taking your time to be intrigued by the good work being done by people all over the world. That hope that comes from people who have been inspired to see possibilities that haven't been there before is something that we treasure in our club and look for ways to support in ways that we think would be valuable, including providing a platform for sharing these messages. We hope you will share what you have found with others, this recording and others. As we always like to do, though, we hand it back to our speaker for the final word. Carol, what would you like people to have clearly in mind as they finish up this video or this podcast?
Well, I hope when you look out the window at the plants outside, you realize that these are really very intelligent beings. And we would really appreciate it if you could share some information about plant intelligence to help deliver business intelligence for our clients, the farmers, and for Vivent. So please share our story.
I
Thank
love
you.
it. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.